So let me ask you something real quick. Have you ever met someone and you're like, why am I even thinking about this person so much? Like they didn't even do anything crazy, they didn't flex money, they didn't try too hard. But somehow, they just stick in your mind. Yeah, that's not random. And no, it's not just chemistry like people say. Carl Jung would say something a lot deeper is going on here. Something most people don't notice, but everybody feels. And today I'm breaking it down in a very simple way. No big psychology words, no textbook talk, just real human behavior. The kind you can actually feel in your real life, because there are two main reasons people start catching feelings for you. And once you understand this, you'll notice it everywhere, even in your own life. And be honest with me in the comments as we go. Have you ever had someone fall for you unexpectedly? Like, you didn't plan it, you didn't even notice it happening, but they just slowly got attached? Yeah, tell me that story. I read them all. All right, let's get into it. Reason 1. You stop trying to push love. Okay, listen carefully. This first one is so underrated it's almost funny. Most people think attraction is about doing more. More texting, more attention, more explaining yourself, more trying to impress. But psychologically, it works backwards. When someone feels like you are trying too hard to be liked, something inside them switches off. Not because you did something wrong, but because your energy becomes predictable. Carl Jung would connect this to something deep in the unconscious mind. People are not just attracted to what they see, they are attracted to what they can't fully figure out. So when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to control how people feel about you, something changes. Your energy becomes calmer, less needy, more grounded, and people feel it, even if they can't explain it. Let me say it in normal language. Have you noticed that one person who doesn't over-text? They reply, yeah, but they don't panic if you don't reply fast. They don't double-text like, hello? They don't act stressed. And somehow, people get more curious about them. That's not luck, that's psychology. Because the human brain is wired to chase what feels free, not what feels clingy. And I know that word sounds harsh, but it's real. When someone feels like you don't need them to be okay, they start wondering why. And that why is where attraction starts growing. Carl Jung would call this part of the psyche the unconscious attraction loop. Basically, people don't fall in love with what is loud. They fall in love with what feels emotionally balanced but slightly mysterious. Not fake mysterious, just naturally unforced. And when you stop trying to force connection, you actually create space for real emotional curiosity. And curiosity is dangerous, because curiosity turns into attention. Attention turns into emotional attachment, and attachment slowly turns into feelings. That's how it works. Quietly. Let me give you a real-life type example. You know when someone starts acting like they're available 24/7 for someone, always online, always replying instantly, always checking in. At first it feels nice, but after a while, it starts feeling like, okay, this person is always there. And the brain stops chasing. But the opposite? Someone who is warm, but not always reachable. That person stays in your head longer. You might even catch yourself thinking, what are they doing right now? That thought alone, that's the beginning of emotional attachment. So here's the first big lesson. People don't fall in love with people who chase them. They fall in love with people who feel emotionally steady and slightly out of reach, not cold, not rude, just not desperate. And that difference is everything. Now I want you to think about something. Don't comment yet, just think. Have you ever liked someone more when they didn't give you full access to them immediately? Be honest, because if you say yes, you already understand this psychology more than you think. Now this next one is where things get even deeper, because the first reason was about your behavior, but the second reason? This one is about your energy, your presence, your inner state. And this is where Carl Jung's ideas get really interesting. Because people don't just react to what you do. They react to who you are when you're not performing. And most people don't realize that part. Let's go there. Reason 2. You make people feel emotionally seen without trying. So this one is subtle, but powerful. Some people make others feel invisible even while talking to them. And some people, just by being present, make others feel understood. No big effort, no deep speech, no perfect words, just presence. And that is rare. Jung talked a lot about authenticity, the idea that people unconsciously feel when someone is real. And when you are real, you stop performing. You stop acting like you need to be impressive. You just are. And weirdly enough, that makes people feel safe around you. And safety is one of the biggest triggers for emotional attraction. You know those people you can sit with in silence, and it doesn't feel awkward? Like you're just there. No pressure, no forcing conversation. That kind of energy, people remember that. Because most social interactions are full of pressure. What do I say next? Do I look interesting? Am I boring them? But when someone removes that pressure, the brain relaxes, and relaxed brains form attachment faster. And here's the part people miss. People don't fall in love with fun moments only. They fall in love with how they feel around you when they are not performing either. Let that sit for a second, because if someone can just exist around you, without pretending, without stress, without overthinking, their mind starts associating you with peace, and peace is addictive. And I want you to notice this in your own life. There are people you talk to, and after talking to them you feel drained. And there are people you talk to, and after talking to them you feel lighter. Guess which one people fall for more? Exactly. So right now we've covered why chasing kills attraction, why emotional calmness pulls people in, why mystery without effort creates curiosity, why presence matters more than performance. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because there's a hidden layer most people never talk about, and it explains why some people become unforgettable, even when they didn't do much. So let's go a bit deeper now, because this is where Carl Jung's idea really hits. People don't just fall in love with your personality, they fall in love with what you awake inside them. Let me say that again in a simple way. Some people meet you and they stay the same, but some people meet you and suddenly they start thinking more, feeling more, remembering things, even questioning their life a little, and they don't even know why. Jung would call this part the unconscious projection, but let me break it down like normal life. When someone meets you, they don't just see you, they also see parts of themselves in you. Sometimes the confident version of themselves they forgot. Sometimes the emotional version they hide. Sometimes even the love they never expressed. And now here's the crazy part. If you make someone feel something they don't usually feel, they start connecting that feeling to you, even if you didn't do anything special. You ever meet someone, and after talking to them you feel like, I don't know why, but I feel different today. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Not because they gave you advice, not because they said something genius, but because they triggered something inside you. That's emotional imprinting, and people don't forget that easily. So attraction is not only, how good do you look? How funny are you? How interesting are you? It's also, how do you make me feel about myself? That's the secret layer most people miss. Let's be honest, you know those people you met once or twice, but for some reason, you still remember them? Even years later? You're not even talking to them. But their presence just stayed in your memory. That's not random. That means they activated something in your unconscious mind. Maybe peace, maybe excitement, maybe curiosity, maybe even emotional depth you weren't used to. Carl Jung believed we all carry hidden parts of ourselves. Some people call it shadow, but don't overthink that word. It just means parts of you don't fully express. And when someone meets you who brings those parts out, even without words, they become emotionally important to you. Not because they forced it, but because they revealed something inside you. Now let's connect everything, because both reasons actually work together. Reason 1 was about your behavior. Reason 2 is about your presence. But when you combine them, something powerful happens. People don't fall in love because you try to make them. They fall in love when you are not desperate for approval. You are emotionally grounded. You are present without pressure. You make them feel something real inside themselves. That's it. That's the pattern. And let me be real with you. If you try too hard to be liked, people feel it. But when you're just comfortable being yourself, not performing, not forcing, just relaxed energy, people start leaning toward you naturally. It's kind of funny, actually. The less you chase, the more people notice you. And I want you to think about this before we end. Who in your life do you remember most? Not the loudest person, not the richest person, but the one who made you feel something. That's the real answer. So maybe the real secret was never about getting people to like you. Maybe it was about becoming someone who feels real enough, that others can feel themselves around you, because when that happens, something simple becomes powerful, and something ordinary becomes unforgettable. And hey, so, before you click away, let's just sit here for a second. No rush. Just you and me for a moment. Because if you made it this far into the video, it already says something about you. You're not just scrolling for noise. You're actually trying to understand people, and maybe even yourself a little better. And I respect that. Now listen, if you enjoyed this video and you're still here with me till the end, support me with a coffee if you enjoyed this video. No pressure at all, seriously, but I want you to understand something real quick. It's not just about the coffee, it's about what it actually does behind the scenes. It helps me keep this channel alive. It helps me sit down, think, research, and create more videos like this. These kinds of conversations we're having right now, the ones most people don't talk about in real life. So if this video made you think, or smile, or even question something about your own experiences, then yeah, that support genuinely keeps this going, and I appreciate that more than I can say. Now, let's slow it down for a second, because I want to ask you something real. Not as a viewer, but just as a person talking to another person. Be honest with me. Have you ever met someone who stayed in your mind, even though nothing serious ever happened between you? Like, no relationship, no official story, nothing big on paper, but somehow, they're still there in your thoughts, sometimes randomly, sometimes at night when things are quiet. Yeah, that kind of person. Now, think about it carefully. What do you think made them stick? Was it their looks? Was it something they said? Was it the way they laughed? Or was it something you couldn't even explain properly? Because here's the truth most people miss. It's rarely about one big moment. It's usually about a feeling they created inside you. Maybe they made you feel understood for the first time in a long time. Or maybe they made you feel calm without trying. Or maybe they made you feel something you weren't used to feeling in your everyday life. And the mind, it remembers that, even when you don't want it to. Even when life moves on. Even when you tell yourself, it wasn't that deep. Sometimes it was deeper than you think, just quieter. Now I want you to think about this. If someone can stay in your mind like that, without forcing anything, without promises, without effort, what does that tell you about how powerful human connection really is? It's not always about intensity. Sometimes it's about impact. Small moments that leave a big echo, And that's why I always say, people don't just remember what you did. They remember how they felt around you. That feeling, that emotional imprint, that's what sticks. And I'll be honest with you, I read every comment under these videos, not just for engagement, but because I genuinely find it interesting how different everyone's story is. Some of you will say it was someone from school. Some of you will say it was someone you met for just a few hours. Some of you will say it was someone you never even got close to. But they still stayed in your mind anyway. And when I read those stories, it always proves the same thing again and again. We are way more emotional than we like to admit. And people don't connect logically first. They connect emotionally first, then they try to explain it later with logic. That's how it usually goes. So yeah, drop your story in the comments. I actually mean that. Have you ever met someone who stayed in your mind, even though nothing serious ever happened between you? And what do you think made them stick? Be real with it. No need to overthink it. Just write it how it comes, because someone else reading your comment might realize, oh, I felt that too. And that's the part I like most about this space. People realizing they're not the only ones who feel certain things. And before I go, just know this. Whatever you experience with people like that, it wasn't random. There's always a reason. Sometimes it's psychology. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's just two human beings crossing paths at the right emotional moment. But either way, it meant something, even if it didn't last. All right, I'll stop here. I'll see you in the next one. And yeah, take care of your mind, because it remembers more than you think.